Before I end today's episode of Jammin Jon's Wrestling News, there's a few things that I want to say. I want to talk for just a moment about Toys R Us and how much that store made an impact on my childhood. Now, I'm not going to bore you with my childhood. I'm going to try to keep it as interesting as I can. It's got a little bit of pro wrestling involved, so maybe it'll keep you interested. If you don't know, Toys R Us, beginning tomorrow, June 29th, will close all of its stores in the United States. It will officially be out of business. We knew this was going to happen when they declared bankruptcy last year and when they started their liquidation sales back in March. I was born and raised, and I still continue to live in the small eastern Kentucky town of Hazard. You hear me say that name every single time I introduce an episode of Jammin Jon's Wrestling News. And it's because I'm proud to be from Hazard, Kentucky. I'm proud to be from Eastern Kentucky. And I know one day, I don't know when, but one day, I'm going to be the biggest thing to come out of this town. I live an hour and 30 minutes, probably 2 hours away from Lexington, Kentucky. And I tell you what, every single birthday that I had as a kid, my mom and my stepdad would take me down to Lexington, and we used to eat at this place called Chi-Chi's. Now, for you young people that was born around 2000, 2001, 2002, you probably don't know what Chi-Chi's is. Chi-Chi's was one of the best Mexican restaurants that there was. They had amazing Mexican food, but sadly around 2002, about 80-90% of those restaurants that they had developed salmonella. And a lot of people got sick from salmonella. Some of them even died. And that caused all the restaurants to go out of business. So after Chi-Chi's went out of business, we go and eat at Olive Garden. After we got through eating, we go over to Toys R Us. I remember the first time I went inside Toys R Us. It was back in 2001. I was 7 years old. And when I went through those doors, oh my God, it was like heaven. It was like a Walmart supercenter filled with nothing but toys. What more could you ask for as a kid? It was beautiful. Some of the first things that I ever got at Toys R Us was a WWF poster that I still have hanging up in my room. It's got The Rock, Triple H, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Undertaker, Chris Benoit, Kane, Kurt Angle, and Chris Jericho on it. If you follow Bailey on Instagram, you can actually see the same poster that I got in my room, because Bailey had it whenever she was a teenager. There's a photo of her when she was a teenager, and it's got Chris Benoit behind her. That's the same poster I got, and I got that at Toys R Us back in 2001. I also picked up a Bastion Brawler. Now, for the kids of today, they're probably thinking, what the hell is a Bastion Brawler? A Bastion Brawler was WCW's attempt at a WWF Wrestle Buddy, which was like a teddy bear version of the pro wrestlers that kids could hug up to, wrestle with, you know. I had a Sting one, because Sting was my favorite wrestler in WCW, and these Bastion Brawlers, what was so special about them was that they would talk. So whenever you went and you would do a armbar on Sting, or DDP, or Goldberg, or Kevin Nash, or put one of them in a leg lock, they would say, "Ow, you're hurting my leg. Ow, you're hurting my arm." Like, it would be really intense screaming in the beginning with a deadpan punchline at the end. "You better let go of my nose." And it's funny to look back at that, but it was so awesome back whenever I was a kid. And I still have that Sting Bastion Brawler. He's sleeping in his box in my closet, perfectly in mint condition. I still have that along with my Queasy Bake Oven, my Stretch Screamers. They're all in the box, mint condition. And I got them from Toys R Us. That was one of the things that I first got at Toys R Us, was a Bastion Brawler and a WWF playset that was magnetic. Somebody please, for the love of God, help me, because I can't remember this to save my life. But you had these little small versions of the wrestlers that they looked like Tech Deck dudes. They were kind of like Tech Deck dudes. They were magnetic, and you put them on the playset, and they done some really cool things. And I had some of those. I had the playset. That was some of the first things that I ever got at Toys R Us. When I went back over and over the years for my birthday, I would go down there for two things: professional wrestling action figures, and of course, the toy wrestling belts. Now, for those of you who don't know me too well, you're about to find out something about me. For those of you who do know me, you know that I got a YouTube channel. Go check it out if you've never seen it before. Stewie Family, subscribe to me, I'd really appreciate it. I have a huge collection of toy wrestling belts. You remember when Jakks Pacific made the foam toy wrestling belts back in the day? I have 17 of those, and they're all hanging up on a wall in my bedroom. One of them came from Walmart. One of them I got online on Amazon back in 2007, long before Amazon really blew up into the billion-dollar company that it is now. And a majority of those belts came from Kmart, which went out of business in my hometown back around 2009, 2010, and Toys R Us. I can tell you right now that the Classic World Tag Team belt that I got, the WWE Tag Team Championship that was on SmackDown, the World Tag Team Championship that was on Raw, the European Championship, and the ECW Championship, I got those belts at Toys R Us over the years for birthdays. And my toy wrestling belts is something that I really care a lot about. You know, I really took care of them over the years, and hopefully pass them on to my kids one day. You know, so it's something that I really love, is those toy wrestling belts. And I've had a lot of people that's over the years offer me a lot of money for some of those belts, but I won't sell them, you know, because they meant so much to me in my childhood, you know, so I want to pass that on one day. After we left Toys R Us that same day, we went over to a little store called Circuit City. Now, for those of you born in the early 2000s, Circuit City was one of the largest electronic stores in the United States. It was right up there with Radio Shack. They had so many awesome gadgets. They had so many amazing electronics. They had CDs at a great price. They had video games at a great price. And I remember for my 7th birthday, my mom got me at Circuit City a red Memorex boombox. And she got me WWF SmackDown Just Bring It for the PlayStation 2, which is my favorite pro wrestling game of all time. A couple of years later, Circuit City went out of business, and now here we are talking about Toys R Us. It's really crazy. I went to Toys R Us that day, and right after I left Toys R Us, I went to Circuit City, and now here we are in 2018, and both of those stores they're no longer here. They're out of business. But you know, I don't tend to focus on that negative of, oh man, you know, it's sad that they're out of business, and it is sad that they're out of business. It is sad that they're no longer here. It's sad that that piece of our childhood is something that we can't go back to. That's sad, yes, but I don't look at it that way. I tend to look at the positive. Chi-Chi's might not be around, but Chi-Chi's salsa is still being sold in grocery stores. Circuit City might not be around, but I can tell you this, at 10 years old, I got that Memorex boombox, I turned it to 97.9 and heard Michael Dwayne, and I never would have imagined that one day I would work for that radio station. Because when I heard him at 10 years old on that boombox, I thought to myself, that would be a really cool job to have. And I never would have imagined that it would lead me onto doing a wrestling show for Amazon Echo devices or being on the radio. And you know, WWF SmackDown Just Bring It. All those wrestling toys I got. I spent hours upon hours playing Just Bring It. And I spent hours upon hours making my own matches with these wrestling action figures. You know, like a lot of you done when you was kids. Never imagined that in 2016 I would make my debut in pro wrestling. I never would have imagined that. I played Just Bring It so much that I learned and memorized all of the pro wrestlers in the WWE at that time. And I went and I watched Raw and SmackDown, and I was just like, okay, well, I know that's Kurt Angle, I know that's Trish Stratus, I know that's Rikishi, I know that's Perry Saturn, and I had an advantage. I went in and I kind of knew what was going on through the video game. If it wasn't for Toys R Us having those wrestling toys, those wrestling belts, if it wasn't for Circuit City having that Memorex boombox and that WWF SmackDown Just Bring It copy for PlayStation 2, I wouldn't be talking to you right now doing this wrestling news. And that's something that I really focus on, is the positives of those times. Yes, it's sad that Toys R Us is gone. Yes, it's sad that Circuit City and Chi-Chi's and all that is gone. But we have to focus on the good memories. And I had a lot of great memories going down there to that store, and they will always be right here in my heart. That's just like whenever I was a kid, there was a playground here in my hometown called the Imagination Station. It was a wooden castle-like playground. You probably know what I'm talking about. You might still have one in your hometown. My mom used to take me over there, and she used to play with me over there. I used to play with kids that come over there. And around 2008, the city decided to bulldoze the Imagination Station because the wood was rotting out in it. And I thought for the longest time that it was just a dirt mound. There was nothing there. And, my childhood from that time was dead. Till a couple of months ago, my mom took me over there. I asked her if I could go over there and reminisce because I was in a nostalgic mood that day, and she took me over there. And before we got over there, I thought it was just going to be a dirt mound. And much to my surprise, a brand new playground was sitting on that same piece of land, that same dirt mound. You get what I'm saying? The Imagination Station that I grew up with, that I played on, it's not around anymore, but the dream of that playground, the dream of that dirt mound being a playground still lives on because there's a new one on it, and there was a bunch of kids playing on it. And it really lifted my spirits up that what I thought was dead from my childhood was still alive. Because like I said, that Imagination Station probably wasn't there physically, but it was there spiritually because a new one was on its location and there were kids playing on it, and that really lifted my spirits. And that's the way I look at Toys R Us. I look at it as a place that gave me a lot of great memories and really influenced my dream and helped me chase it. So thank you so much, Toys R Us, for helping me live out my dream. Big shout out to Jeffrey the Giraffe. He wished me a happy birthday when I was 10 years old. I was part of that Toys R Us birthday club. So that was really awesome getting a happy birthday phone call from him back in the day. Man, it might be gone, but I tell you what, no matter how old I get, in my young heart, I'll always be a Toys R Us kid, and I will never grow up.